Licensed games used to be absolute garbage until TT Games completely broke the mold, and half of you are still underestimating just how mechanically deep these titles actually got. The games I put in this video are probably going to make a lot of you nostalgic, but they hold up better than most modern AAA releases. Every year, developers promise better graphics, but these games are actually delivering. From pure comedy to massive open worlds, this covers the most mechanically impressive brick games right now. Let's get into it. Alright, this is LEGO The Lord of the Rings, and I honestly think the open world design here embarrasses a lot of modern RPGs. TT Games pushed their proprietary new engine to the absolute limit here, giving us a fully seamless Middle-earth, which was practically unheard of for a game aimed at kids. You aren't just playing the movie beats, you're wandering from Hobbiton to Mordor with 0 loading screens blocking the way. The specific mechanic that blows my mind every time is the blacksmith forging system. Finding mithril bricks to craft the mithril disco feel or the boxing gloves is a genuinely better crafting loop than what we got in actual Skyrim. I will die on that hill. Fighting the Balrog block by block while swapping between Gandalf's magic and Legolas's precise targeting reticule feels incredibly tight. The way the studio managed to balance literal slapstick comedy with the actual Peter Jackson voice lines, it creates this surreal masterpiece level atmosphere. If you skipped this because you thought it was just a children's toy tie-in, you missed one of the best Tolkien adaptations ever coded. So, this is LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'm just gonna say it, the character animation work here is the absolute peak of the TT Games era. The way they captured Jack Sparrow's drunken, stumbling walk cycle using rigid plastic minifigures is a masterclass in rigging. But the real reason this is on the list is the compass mechanic. Holding the button to pull up Jack's compass and literally tracking glowing footprints across the beach at Port Royal to dig up mini-kits completely changed how exploration worked in these games. It wasn't just smashing things anymore, it was actual pathfinding. I honestly think the sword dueling in the Isla de Muerta boss fight, where you have to constantly swap out of the moonlight so you don't turn into a skeleton, is one of the most creative boss encounters of that entire console generation. They didn't rely on massive open worlds here. They just built incredibly dense, puzzle-heavy levels that forced you to actually think. The barrel rolling sections alone make it an absolute classic. Okay, this is LEGO Harry Potter Collection, and I'm ready for the hate, but navigating Hogwarts Castle in this game is infinitely more rewarding than exploring it in Hogwarts Legacy. TT Games completely overhauled their physics pipeline for this one, and you can feel it the second you cast Wingardium Leviosa. You aren't just breaking bricks, you are physically stacking them in real time to build stairs and solve environmental puzzles. The spell wheel mechanic, holding down the trigger to dynamically swap from Lumos to Reducto mid-jump, was so fluid it felt like a third-person shooter at times. I remember grinding the Polyjuice Potion cauldrons to swap to a Dark Wizard just to bypass those glowing red locks in Nocturne Alley. And the sheer amount of sequence breaking you could pull off was insane. I honestly believe the year's 1.4 hub world is the most meticulously crafted hub TT ever built. It wasn't a sterile menu. The castle organically expanded as you learned new spells. It's an absolute flex of level design. Now, this is LEGO Jurassic World, and the fact that they actually let you play as the dinosaurs completely flips the traditional formula on its head. I honestly think the dinosaur customizer found in the Visitor Center is the single greatest side mechanic TT Games ever implemented. Taking the head of a T-Rex and slapping it onto the body of a velociraptor, then taking that absolute abomination out into the paddock to solve puzzles, it is purely unhinged game design in the best way possible. The engine had to handle massive scaling differences, rendering a tiny Compsognathus right next to a massive Brachiosaurus, and the collision boxes somehow never broke. Healing the sick Triceratops by literally diving into giant piles of Lego droppings to find the missing inventory items is hilarious. But mechanically, it forced you to use character abilities in ways outside of just hitting buttons. The vehicle handling here is a bit floaty, I'll admit, but ramming a gyrosphere through the Isla Nublar jungle while the John Williams score blasts in the background, it just never gets old. Alright, this is LEGO Marvel Superheroes, and I will stand by the fact that before Insomniac's Spider-Man came out, this was the ultimate Marvel sandbox. The absolute visceral thrill of standing on the shield, helicarrier leaping off the edge as Iron Man, and just free falling all the way down to the Manhattan streets below, with absolutely zero loading screens, was a technical marvel for the Xbox 360 era hardware. TT Games introduced the Big Fig mechanic here, and it completely changed combat. Playing as the Hulk and physically picking up a parked taxi cab to hurl at a Sandman goon feels incredibly weighty. I genuinely think the character roster is unmatched. They had the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Avengers all interacting in the same space, which is a licensing miracle we will literally never see again. Unlocking Deadpool by finding all those red bricks hidden across the city felt like a massive badge of honor. The flight controls could be a little finicky on mouse and keyboard, but the sheer ambition of that open world design still holds up perfectly. So, this is LEGO City Undercover, and yes, this is basically Grand Theft Auto for kids, but I honestly think the open world progression here is tighter than most modern Ubisoft games. Originally built specifically to utilize the Wii U's dual-screen rendering, TT Fusion baked some incredible mechanics into this sandbox. The core loop revolves around Chase McCain's disguise wheel, swapping from a burglar to pry open doors with a crowbar, straight into a miner to detonate dynamite on a vault. It's instant, seamless, and completely removes the need to constantly swap characters at free-play kiosks. I'm completely obsessed with the super build mechanic. Finding the massive helipad super build and dumping 40,000 bricks into it just to watch it construct itself in real time is incredibly satisfying. Driving around the neon streets of Pagoda using the boost mechanic on a stolen sports car while the original synth-heavy soundtrack plays is just a vibe. If you haven't played this one, you are actively missing out on TT Games' absolute magnum opus of original storytelling. Okay, this is LEGO Batman 2 DC Superheroes, and we have to put some respect on this name because it completely saved the franchise from getting stale. This was the exact moment TT Games abandoned the silent movie comedy and introduced full voice acting, completely altering their animation pipeline forever. But beyond the voices, the Gotham City open world was a massive technical leap. I honestly think the moment you unlock Superman, and the John Williams theme organically swells in the background, the exact second you take flight over the grim, rain-slick streets of Gotham is one of the most euphoric gaming moments of the 2010s. The suit swapping mechanic was refined perfectly here, having to find the specific terminal to put Batman into the electricity suit. Just to walk through a live wire puzzle in Arkham Asylum required actual spatial awareness. The driving physics in the Batmobile were notoriously awful, spinning out on every corner, but I kind of love it for that. It laid the entire blueprint for every massive open world game that followed. Now this is LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, and the engine overhaul here is frankly absurd. TT Games built an entirely new proprietary engine, the NTT engine, just to handle the ridiculous draw distances and rendering pipelines needed for this game. I honestly think the combat system is better than it has any right to be. They completely scrapped the old button mashing and brought in an over-the-shoulder third-person aiming mechanic for blasters, complete with cover systems and literal headshot damage numbers. When you pull out a lightsaber, there is an actual combo meter. Juggling a stormtrooper in the air everywhere using light and heavy attack strings feels like I'm playing Devil May Cry, and it's absolutely wild. The galaxy map, allowing you to seamlessly jump from hyperspace into a dogfight above Coruscant and then land directly onto the planet's surface, is a technical marvel. Some people say the open world bloat is too much, but the sheer mechanical density of slicing panels with an astromech droid while admiring the high-res plastic textures, it is visually untouchable. Alright, this is LEGO DC Supervillains, and this is hands down the best narrative TT Games ever wrote. Instead of forcing you to play as Batman for the 4th time, they made your own custom character the actual focal point of the story cutscene. The customizer suite here is terrifyingly deep. You can tweak everything from the exact particle effect of your laser beams to the animation of your jump, but the standout mechanic is absorbing powers throughout the campaign. Starting off as a blank slate and slowly stealing abilities to solve the LexCorp infiltration level just makes the progression feel incredibly earned. I honestly think the hub world combining Gotham and Metropolis into one massive corrupted map is the most atmospheric environment they've ever modeled. Exploring the swamps of the Hall of Doom while using the slide tackle mechanic to smash through Swamp Thing's vines, it just flows so perfectly. They perfected the formula here, stripping out the annoying escort missions and just letting you unleash pure chaotic villainy. And finally, this is LEGO Indiana Jones: The Original Adventures, where the pure puzzle design hasn't been topped by modern games. This was back when TT Games didn't rely on massive open worlds or voice acting. They just built flawless, self-contained levels that forced you to think mechanically. I honestly think the phobia system is brilliant. Dropping into the Well of Souls and realizing Indy literally cannot move or jump because there are snakes on the floor, forcing you to swap to Sala to clear the way with a torch, is such a smart way to integrate movie lore directly into gameplay constraints. The ability to actually pick up dropped weapons from enemies, snatching a crossbow off a thuggy guard to shoot a distant target, gave the combat a gritty improvisational feel that later games completely abandoned. They squeezed every ounce of performance out of those older consoles, making the boulder chase sequence in Peru feel genuinely stressful. We don't see this kind of tightly paced, gimmick-free level design anymore. The industry is so obsessed with infinite live service grinds and photorealism that they forgot how to make a 10-hour perfectly crafted action-adventure game. This isn't just nostalgia. It's a reminder of when gameplay loops were king, and when developers weren't afraid to let mechanics drive the experience. What game did I completely disrespect by leaving it out of this video? Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you know what he's on, and until next time, this has been Duzo, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.